on today's episode of the Law of Tech podcast.
Again, I think we touched this point many times about labels, especially if you're a young student or a young professional. Labels are it's a big deal. So you want to be sure when you grow up in your career as a student or as a professional that you are up to standards or somehow you can measure yourself with others. But that's exactly the mistake. You don't need to compare yourself to others. You just need to compare yourself to what you were yesterday, and you try to be a better version of yourself every day. And most importantly, you need to realize, understanding that you need to accept some compromises especially if you want to work for an employer, because you may follow what's the job description, but to be sure to be true to yourself. So you need to commit to a project that, yes, can be with an employer, but it must reflect the way you are and the sort of professional you want to become.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Law of Tech podcast. In this episode, we'll be discussing a very interesting topic and one that I'm actually extremely excited about, and that is alternative legal careers. And for this, I'm joined by Marco Mendola. Now, Marco is an in-house legal advisor with expertise in company law, data protection law, and digital technologies. He's a junior legal tech consultant working towards an advanced professional qualification, and as such, he helps clients to understand contracts using legal design. He's also a member of the Legal Creatives Academy and also a certified professional in legal design. Marco, welcome to the show. I am so happy to finally have you on the show and that we managed to make this a reality.
Thank you very much, Adasa, for having me to the podcast. I'm very excited too. And hello to everyone.
It's honestly a pleasure from my side as well, and I'm really looking forward to discussing this topic more with you and hearing some more about your experiences, which I think are extremely valuable to anyone listening. So maybe to kick off this episode, because I think what we'll do in this episode is kind of follow the structure of maybe starting where you began, moving to your experiences throughout your career, and kind of heading in the end towards the future and having a bit of an outlook and some advice on what you would say to people trying to follow a similar path in an alternative legal career. So with that in mind, let's start with where you started all the way from the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit more about your professional background and why you even entered the field of law to start with?
Absolutely. Let's say that my experience is not a very straightforward one. So I don't fit well overall into a box. So there are going to be many different steps in my legal journey, but I try to make it simple. Originally, I'm from Italy. Mm-hmm. I've done my bachelor and master of law at the University of Turin, in again northwest of Italy. Mm-hmm. And then after uni. Classic, I think. I wasn't exactly sure what to do, jumping into the profession, working for the public sector. Yeah. I was quite lost. And then I think because I was spending too much time thinking about it and not actually doing something, what I've done, I've basically followed the standard. So I applied for the training contract, the equivalent of the training contract in Italy. And I was actually doing criminal law, something that I really, really liked at uni.
That's interesting.
And I've done 2 years of that. And then I've realized, well, that's not for me. I mean, the subject was extremely interesting mm-hmm. at uni. But then after 2 years of practice, and I was around 26 years old at the time, I've understood that wasn't my place. My boss was a nice guy. I was working in a nice firm, but the actual criminal law environment and going to the court every day, it wasn't for me. And I really struggled at that time because I wasn't ready to admit that to myself. And I was, because you know why? I was kind of moving away from the standard path. So all my friends and colleagues were like going through civil or criminal law, full stop, in a law firm, traditional. going to the court every day, there are many positives. You learn a lot, but you need also to have somehow a personality that works with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was really struggling. So my big question mark at that time was, okay, what I've done for the last 6-7 years of my life. So this is what law is. Oh dear. So then I had a few rough months, I have to say, very honestly. I struggled a lot at the time, both on a professional and personal level, because I felt somehow totally lost. And then after a break, I said to myself, well, let's start from what I like. So what am I doing here? Am I following a legal career to please others or to follow a standard path? Or I'm doing something for myself. So what you want to what you want to do for real. And so I started to investigate a bit, and with myself and talking with people, with more experienced people as well. And that's where I linked and connected to my real self somehow. So both in my bachelor and master of law thesis, I've studied specifically. The first one was on digital copyright. So already I was somehow studying the intersection between law and digital technologies. And so I said, okay, well, I've basically tried to study this topic as much as possible out of the standard. So, and I've enjoyed studying that so much. So why don't you keep further with that?
Yeah.
So, and that's my next step. Very quickly. So I went to the Netherlands. So I applied to the Law and Digital Technologies Advanced Master at Leiden University. Best opportunity and best choice of my life so far. And so what I've done, I left my firm as a trainee, and I just went to the Netherlands for my advanced master. And after that experience, well, just because of life situations, honestly, I moved to the UK with my current wife, and I've been in the UK since 2015. First as a legal assistant and paralegal roles. And now I'm actually qualifying as a lawyer in England and Wales, but in a completely different way from the traditional route that I initiated years ago.
So maybe like that was actually something that I was going to ask you anyway. Like, I'm interested to know, you say that's like a different way of qualifying. And obviously I have many more questions about this whole story that you've just told. But since we're on the topic anyway, what does that exactly mean? Like, what is this alternative way?
Yes, as alternative way, well, you know probably better than me that there are different ways of qualifying in different jurisdictions. Yeah. Multiple options, especially in the UK where I'm right now. There's also an ongoing change in terms of qualification. There's the new S2E system. Originally here in the UK, there's always been the classic training contract with the so-called LPC. But because I've done enough studies in Italy and then the advanced master in the Netherlands and years of experience, I thought that for myself it wasn't appropriate to start, let's say, from the very beginning. So I've tried to find my own way in order to have a more practical and cost-efficient approach. So first, I've done, of course, the GDL, so the graduate diploma in law, which is absolutely necessary if you want to pursue a career. And then I found CILEX, so as the CILEX route in order to qualify, which is the Chartered Legal Executive in England and Wales, which is an equivalent qualification of. So I will, in theory, when I'm going to complete it, hopefully very soon, I'll be a qualified lawyer in England and Wales in one specific sector. In my case, business and company law. And then it's going to be up to me if I want to complete the qualification up to solicitor's levels. So, but because again, I struggle to fit in a box, my actual plan is to get qualified as soon as possible as a legal executive, but then pursue my, let's say, my full development with legal technology and legal design, which is something that I absolutely love to do on a daily basis.
Yes, definitely. I think that's also very fascinating. So, like, the options are, you've still got many options in principle. And seeing your background, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of room for many opportunities. I guess also, in terms like once you qualify, you really get to choose like what you love to do. I guess in that sense, which is
That's the plan. I mean, I hope for the best, but I've learned in my very modest experience that you need to somehow live and learn sometimes, because you can change your mind in a few years' time, or life can give you some surprises,
yeah.
sometimes positive, sometimes negatives, and you need to readjust your plan. And also something that I was really struggling back then is kind of like, self judgment. I was extremely strict with myself. I was very judging about my somehow profile, because I was actually doing something different
Mm-hmm.
from most of the others, or most of the standard path. And so I said, well, Marco, you're not a serious one. I mean, you like too many things. You have a too much open approach. And so I was questioning myself, up to the point that I was really like, oh, I think I need to give up on everything, because I'm not a lawyer myself, because I was struggling with the definition of lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
What lawyer to be a lawyer means.
I fully understand that. Yeah, no, I can fully relate to that, I want to say, because I think many people nowadays like put a lot of pressure on themselves also in that sense. We tend to compare ourselves a lot to literally any living being around us. So no matter what it is,
Yes.
be it like in person or online or in any other form, you're never as a person good enough when you compare yourself to anyone else. But also, there's this typical idea that you have when you think about law and law school and the legal profession. And once you don't fit in that box that once was established, you very much start to doubt yourself. So I had exactly the same. Like I would say also, started in law school, I really noticed that I am not the typical lawyer. I don't,
That's it.
there's nothing wrong with that if you are, I think that it's great and that's who somebody else is. But once you're in that environment and you don't feel like you're part of it, you really start questioning, what am I doing here? I clearly should be doing something else.
I totally feel you with that. And in my case, for example, like I've also made very strong decisions in going against the tide in terms of like leaving my country, like more than once. I'm very, very happy where I am right now, but it was also kind of like breaking with somehow a tradition that was somehow imposed on how to be a lawyer, or the way you need to behave, the way you need to dress. I was 26 and I was dressed every day, like, classic when you go to the court, up to the, let's say, up to standards somehow. But I never wear a tie anymore. I'm against it. I'm very, I mean, still with decency, I can be myself and be casually dressed, and I can actually work very well as well. So to me, the way the way I show myself and the way I talk to others and the way I engage with others, I can play a role. I cannot play a role, and that's what I was suffering the most in the court environment. And the in-house environment right now where I'm working, and the mentality where I'm working right now, so more like in-house or entrepreneurial, allows myself to be more myself,
Exactly.
to make my mistakes, to learn from my mistakes, to learn from others. So yeah, I totally feel what you said before.
Yeah. I think, is that also something you would say is why alternative legal careers perhaps? Because I mean, like one of the things that you could be doing in terms of like alternative legal careers is actually working in-house at a company. And companies obviously are always looking for new ways to innovate, to find new ways of becoming better and stronger. And with digital technologies obviously being one of the ways to distinguish yourselves from any other company. Obviously, the opportunities in terms of questions that arise following the use of new technologies like virtual reality, augmented reality, any types of other technologies. There's always something new.
I totally agree. And again, a funny thing that I want to share as well is that when I was looking for my first paralegal role here in Bristol in England, everyone, I mean friends or colleagues, they were recommending, oh, please, Marco, I think for your CV, and that's the worst start ever. So whenever you have a friend or someone, I think it looks better for your CV. I mean, for me or for my CV, that, I mean, other people needs to look it up. Fine, sorry. They said, I think you need to go to a pure law firm because it reflects better on your career. And say, okay, but what's wrong with an in-house firm? It's just a little firm into a company that are providing more dynamic services. Oh, that's not good. And in a few years, the stigma changed. So now, actually, at least I can definitely confirm, and I call on every expert professional to challenge me on this, at least in the UK. Now, in-house firms, in-house law firms, and entrepreneurs or legal tech startups, or even law firm startups are growing up right now. I can mention a couple. There's one called Maggiotto. They're actually focusing on legal design. And another one, it's called Lex Solutions, and they're both from London. Lex Solutions is more focused on like coaching and having a culture directly into a firm. So now they're at the very top of the pyramid. Yeah. You can see that people want to go, especially young professionals, they want to go to in-house because it's more dynamic, more responsibility, more chances to have a more of a holistic approach rather than being fully focused on law, or as I said, like startup reality. So the entire picture has changed.
Yeah, exactly. But still, there's some rigidity, I think. No, there's still like you still see somewhat of a divide, and maybe perhaps. Especially looking at, I mean, you followed a lot of different types of legal education. You started in Italy, you said, and then you went to the Netherlands. So I think, like, if we're talking about diversity in terms of education, like, I'm speaking to the perfect person. And now you're obviously, like, in the UK also, it's maybe not like the traditional sense of legal education, but still you have to follow, the track that you chose.
Well, I had my exposure with education in England with the graduate diploma in law, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I'm also doing the Silex Law School for the qualification, and I'm also doing, again, but I'm more oriented now into professional qualifications more than academic ones. I think I can introduce a bit more about legal design and legal technology. So I'm doing with my day-to-day work my legal technology certification, which is an intense. I think it's between 6 and 9 months. With the Legal Technologies and Information Institute. It's a nice platform made of professionals all around the world, and all the modules are purely practical. Just to mention a few, how to draft or set up a legal chatbot, amazing, or digital transformation in law firms, or well, definitely AI and law. So there are many modules, but they are shared in more practical spirit. So less academic, less theoretical, and more into practice, because that's definitely what you need if you want to develop as a legal tech consultant, or if you want to be knowledgeable about that. And second, I can definitely mention Legal Creatives It's an amazing platform that you're going to find online. It's focused on legal design. It's my absolute pleasure to be a member of that environment. It's from people all across, I mean, from every country. And when I mean every country, I'm not just saying Europe and US. I mean every country. Asia, Africa, Latin America. So you have a chance to meet amazing professionals at all levels. Mm-hmm. So super pro, trainees. I mean, there's no difference. There are no labels, and you learn a lot about the concept itself of legal design, which I think it is, and it's going to be a total revolution, especially in contracts.
Yes, no, definitely. So this all raises a ton of questions. So I'm just going to go ahead and just go for this, because obviously I want to know more about the legal design topic in general. And I know you've also had a great session at the Legal Creatives, which was recently, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if that's. I'm taking it still online. I can also add a link for anyone that's interested. It's online.
Yeah, that would
right?
be good. Yeah.
Yes. No, I think that was very interesting, obviously, and maybe we can talk about that in a second. But before we kind of head towards that specific topic, touching upon what you just said, this distinction between, on the one hand, academic education, on the other hand, more this practical approach to legal education. In what way do you think the current general curriculum that is, put forward within law schools has room for any change? Like, what should change within regular law school to kind of account better for the practical experience that we might be missing a bit at this point in time?
I think this question is exactly to the point, at least for my personal experience. Because if you remember from the beginning, I was saying, oh well, I loved the idea and the subject of studying criminal law, but then I realized that in practice, I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. So I think because I had, as I said before, I have had a bit of a taste of academic experiences across Europe. What I've definitely realized myself is that students needs to, both graduate and undergraduate students needs to have a taste of a practical approach. So in terms of how to apply legal concepts in a practical scenario. And I'm not just referring to assessments. I actually mean living a day-to-day as a sort of, training opportunity or a stage, however you want to call it. So you, as a student, you need to have a taste of what how your day will look like, because it's really, really important at the end of the day to understand what you to have a taste of what your life is going to be,
exactly
potentially.
What you can expect or not expect,
indeed.
As a matter of fact.
Exactly. So what I realized in my experience, I was picturing a lot of what that could be. Oh, I will do this, I will do that, and then in reality, at least to me, it happened exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
So somehow, I'm not saying that my expectations were too high or too low. It's kind of like I had no idea what was next from a practical point of view, and when I was faced with the reality, it wasn't for me. So again, I think going back to the point, I think universities needs to right now to be sure that they can offer practical modules, and not just practical modules again with assessments, but trying to expose undergraduate and graduate students to the profession or to the task, to the environment, and to the people, because you also want to be sure that you fit with the group and you're happy to spend your time with people that can help you or challenge you.
Exactly, and you only know if you're in the environment.
If you have a taste of it.
So it's like it's basically, not only getting knowledge, but it's also gaining experience along the way in law school. Is that what
exactly
you're
right? That's the point. And that's my main, I would say, the first pillar. Second pillar, I think, again, guidance. Career advice services are available across different universities. I remember those both from my Italian, Dutch, and English experience. So I'm sure there are definitely, and there will be in the future, career advice offices. And I strongly hope that they keep running and potentially be better and improve, because that's the absolute key. And the university needs to understand that they need to somehow help students not to find them a job. This is totally unrealistic, and it's up to you to find what you need.
Yeah.
But they need to somehow facilitate at least your research. That's what the uni can do. So expecting your uni to have the solution for you, it's unreasonable. But they need to make all they can to help you find a way. Last but not least, I think, at least for some universities, at least I can share my experience, from my Italian experience from a few years ago. Hopefully now is different. I don't think so, but it's now kind of 10 years. I remember spending many hours and doing a few exams. And when I say a few, I would say at least 6, 7, about history of law, law in ancient Greece, Roman law. And when I mean a Roman law of, I'm not saying 6 credits, it was a 9 credits, a fundamental one. And I remember months. Indeed, yeah, yeah. And they told me back then, it's going to be so helpful for your career. You're going to understand so many more things. I said, all right then. And then next year, the year after, and 10 years after, what do you think I've learned from Roman law? I don't remember a thing. Zero. Again, I'm not judging the subject. I'm not judging. Just to make a point that I think sometimes some universities needs to offer a broader spectrum of choices and try to be sure that. I'm not saying that all law universities need to offer legal tech or legal design modules. That would be awesome, but somehow offer options to be sure that students can have or can be exposed to business skills, commercial skills, these sort of essentials that I mean, as a student, I don't think I need to wait for a training contract or for my practice to be exposed to what's a client interview or what's an attendance note. I think it's not reasonable to wait, the end of your academic studies to be exposed to such things.
No, exactly. Especially, if they play such a fundamental role in what you actually be doing in the end.
Again, I think we touched this point many times about labels.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a young student or a young professional, labels are a big. Let's say it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be sure when you grow up in your career as a student or as a professional that you are up to standards or somehow you can measure yourself with others. But that's exactly the mistake. You don't need to compare yourself to others. You just need to compare yourself to what you were yesterday, and you try to be a better version of yourself every day.
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, you need to realize, again, understanding that you need to accept some compromises especially if you want to work for an employer, because you may follow what's the job description, but
yeah, exactly.
to be
you have
sure
to fit
that
in somewhere. Yeah.
That's absolutely reasonable. But what the most important thing is to be true to yourself. So you need to commit to a project that, yes, can be with an employer, but it must reflect the way you are and the sort of professional you want to become.
Yeah. Yeah, I would fully agree with that. And I think that is obviously something that lies with the individual themselves. So,
it's hard.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's easy.
Not at all.
I went through.
I can imagine.
Let me be extremely honest and frank. I've been through hell with myself in terms of self judgment or self doubt to me. Or it wasn't easy, and it's still not easy. But I've learned my lesson, and I'm open to more lessons for the days to come. And it's worth the try. You need to do it for yourself, and you need to align your somehow personal life mission to the job you're doing. Believe me, a few years ago, if I listen to myself, like, if I go back in time and I listen to myself right now, it's like, oh, this guy. Okay, fine, next. Believe me, it takes time, but I actually now fully believe that aligning your personal self with your professional self, it's absolutely key for, first, your mental and physical health.
Mm-hmm.
Second, to produce actually a good piece of work. and third, the concept of being of service in terms of doing your bit for the community in a constructive way, it's priceless. Again, it took me a few years to understand this, but I mean, I really, really hope that if there's any young professional or young student struggling with, oh my God, I'm not joining the best firm in the world and I'm my own version of a lawyer, it's absolutely fine. Keep going and find your path. And you know what, Adasa? You can change your mind with time. So you can change your mind. What happened? Like, what can happen now? You're 23, or any student, I don't know, 25, random. Okay, in 5 years' time, you're gonna change your mind because you said, you know what? I don't. I've tried it. It's not for me.
Yeah.
So it's actually fine to change your mind in your career, in your studies. It's fine. I don't know why there's such stigma that you need to start, at least where I come from, you need to start with something, you need to be a super expert with that,
Exactly.
that's it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not a serious professional. What? Why?
Yeah.
Why? Give me a reason. Because it's like that. Well, that's not an answer. So I challenge that to the very bone of it. And I think it's perfect now to talk about legal design. Legal design is the best discovery of my professional life so far. Briefly speaking, I've discovered I have dyslexia. I'm dyslexic, and I've discovered that quite late in time. But to make it simple, sometimes it depends. It's a complex subject, but to make it simple between different elements. On a day to day, I can definitely struggle with my reading, with my understanding, with my comprehension, with my language, with my speech, with everything. So it's kind of like being in a kind of a sort of a fog,
Okay.
and you feel extremely tired. So, and then as a lawyer, you're not acting professionally. You're not perfect. You made a typo. Ooh, a typo. Oh,
God
this
forbid.
guy is not a serious lawyer. So all this sort of thing, but. So I've realized that I've been somehow practicing legal design my own self for the last 20 years. Because if you see my books, I'm sure everyone is underlining books and writing on books. That's absolutely fine. But with time, I've realized that I was somehow translating my books into kind of symbols and arrows and use of visuals, colors. The funny part was going back to what I'm doing right now, which is mostly reviewing. So what I'm doing right now in my current role in house, I'm doing mostly three things. First, reviewing contracts. Second, I'm working on a legal tech project for contract automation. So that's amazing. I love it. And then GDPR queries mostly. So all the data protection stuff. So that's perfect for me, right? But in terms of contract review, well, lots of words, lots of precedents, lots of oh yeah, we do this because it's written in the guidance book, because it's been done that's the wording we have used for the last 30 years. Yeah, okay, why? And then you realize there are so many words and so many expressions that are not even more used, or not commercially practicable. Sorry. So the point is, okay, the purpose of a contract, also commercially speaking, is to build up relationships, is to build up communication between different parties. So to be sure that we find a mutual agreement, that we find some kind of common territory where we're going to agree on some terms. And so why we start the new relationship in a way that we make communication very difficult. So I'm sure that in life or in commercial relationships or in any sort of relationship, communication is very important. So being clear and transparent, it's probably a key for a good relationship, any sort of relationship, personal, commercial, business, anything. Of course, now I'm not so naive that I think that just okay, yes, we can agree to very simple terms, no liability, no limitation, and we go with it. No, that's being naive. But what I'm saying is that we can definitely avoid legalese and going where possible into the more plain language, which is there for a reason, because it's simple, understandable, and to be sure that lawyers are not creating some sort of special language where just lawyers to lawyers are understanding each other and the client is completely out of it. Of course, if you want to dig into the legal design topic, first of all, I've mentioned Legal Creatives with Tessa Manuello, but you can also read about the Stanford Law School. They are absolutely number one in this topic.
Yeah.
Especially the legal design lab at Stanford Law School. So they have actually, in terms of, let's say, academic references and this sort of reasoning, and it's going to take a lot of time in order to discuss this. But in general, just to give somehow a definition of legal design, this is provided by the Legal Design Alliance. So just to give an idea about what legal design is to everyone, if they're not expert about the topic itself. So, and I'm going to quote, this is the Legal Design Alliance definition. So legal design is an interdisciplinary approach to apply human-centered design to prevent or solve legal problems. It prioritizes the point of view of users of the law. So the objective is to make the legal system more human-centered and effective through the use of design. And I think this is absolutely brilliant, because it's going to somehow, it's so powerful that it breaks all the barriers in terms of misunderstandings, lack of understanding, lawyers versus non-lawyers, labels, students.
I think it's very interesting. And as I said, I'll be linking any possible thing I can on your work and
Sure.
more generally. So if anybody's
Thank
interesting.
you.
But what I think is most interesting, maybe also slowly but surely going to the wrap up of the episode, because
Of course.
so I was interested to hear from you, looking at all of this, what advice you would give to anyone trying to seek or trying to pursue, that's a better word, trying to pursue a similar career as you did, or an alternative legal career, and trying to find their place within this legal industry. What advice would you give to anyone?
$1 million question, isn't it?
Best for last, right?
So, okay, I'll be extremely honest. First, I think again, let's wrap it up in 3 points, so at least I can be somehow effective. First, as a student or young professional, I think I suggest spend time to understand yourself more than the legal sector. So you don't need to fit with the legal sector. It's more that you need to understand what you really like and you want to become, rather than just following labels, which are, I know, powerful, self-reassuring, and somehow in terms of social or personal status, you feel accomplished. But once you get it, it might be not enough, and it's kind of an empty box. Again, I'm not judging for who is following a traditional path at all. Whatever is important here is that you make an informed decision. Yeah. So it's very, very important to ask, find out, try out, make your own mistake. It's fine, but invest more time in understand yourself. I think that's the first point. Second point, something that's extremely important to support you with your academic studies, but also junior career, which is pretty much, I'm a junior lawyer pretty much, and I'm following my paths and qualifying. So what's extremely helpful to avoid self-judgment or somehow doubting yourself to the point that you kind of sabotage yourself, that, oh my God, I'm a total failure. I'm doing something that's absolutely not right. The best solution ever is find out for a mentor. Reach out to people. Social media are extremely powerful, especially LinkedIn. You may like it, you may detest it. I mean, I've met you through LinkedIn, and I'm extremely grateful for it. So people are, especially in the legal tech or legal design sector, people are extremely open to dialogue, and they want to know what you're thinking about, because they want to see what can you offer of different, right? So I suggest reach out to people, attend live or online events, and mentors. If you can find yourself a mentor, or more than one, it's an absolutely recommended point. And third and last, once you know, or you have a rough idea what you want to do, or at least you know what you like in terms of I like to do research, or I like to find solutions to problems. I like to the interdisciplinary approach. I like to review contracts, or whatever you like. It's your choice. Be sure that you take your risks. There's no guarantee that it's going to be the right choice for you, the right path, or the right solution. But take your risks, make a decision, go for the best, and let's see what happens. There's no guarantee that it's gonna be perfect or it's gonna function, but you need to take your risk, and it's definitely worth taking them, because you're gonna lead, and you're gonna find yourself a new path, which is out of the standard, but it's gonna be extremely rewarding because you align yourself and your professional self into one.
Those are extremely valuable points. Thank you so much for taking the time and talking to me. And I look forward to also seeing what your work on your own side kind of brings forward. And I'll definitely be keeping an eye on that as well. I'm sure you'll be doing absolutely great.
Thank you very much for this, Halisa, and take care, everyone.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Law of Tech podcast. If you want to make sure you keep up to date with the show and never miss out on an episode, be sure to subscribe on your podcast platform of choice and follow the Law of Tech on social media. If you enjoyed the show, please give it a rating or review, as it helps others discover the show, and don't forget to share it with your network. For now, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode of the Law of Tech podcast.